Well, I reckon there's nothing Congress enjoys more than a quick fix for a long-term conundrum. They sure do love something that lets them put off them tough decisions and patch up them divides, hoping that down the line, them problems will vanish like a ghost in the night. But, it appears that right now, them House Republicans can't even see eye to eye on trying such a thing. The Republicans, they're giving the cold shoulder to the notion of giving that interim speaker a mite more power. Seems like last Thursday, the whole hullabaloo reached a peak of embarrassment in the GOP's 16-day quest to unearth someone, anyone, who can rustle up them votes to be the House Speaker. Now, they're beginning to reckon it might just be a lost cause at this here point. So, the Republicans started cooking up a stopgap measure that seemed to sit fine with a goodly portion of the House. They figured they'd bestow some extra power on that acting Speaker pro tempore, Patrick T. McHenry of North Carolina, while they scratched their heads over a more long-term solution. Even that GOP Speaker nominee, Jim Jordan, gave a nod to the plan, figuring that maybe time could mend his wounded Speaker hopes and give him another shot further down the road. But then, bam. The party up and rejected Jordan's leadership, yet again. Jordan, he comes out on Thursday afternoon and says they're scrapping the whole plan. We pitched it to the members as a way to cool tempers and get back to the grind, Jordan says. But, we've decided it ain't the path we're taking. Now, if you watch the video, you might catch a sight of a rare moment when Jordan, the fella who's usually as confident as a rooster at sunrise, appears downright befuddled and frustrated. It's a bit like when Jordan had to explain his chinwag with then-President Donald Trump back on that fateful day in January 2021. Just like back then, there ain't no good answer in sight, and he can't make heads nor tails of it. If there's one moment that sums up this whole wild hootenanny, it's gotta be that one, the would-be leader of the party just calling for a timeout and getting buried under a heap of folks from his own side. That Jordan would even try something so slapdash and bound to fail shows he's plumb out of ideas. And he ain't alone in that predicament, not by a long shot. Now, mind you, there's good reasons why this plan weren't feasible, personal feelings aside. Some folks were hollering about the Constitution, claiming it wouldn't be right to have a temp speaker. Then, them Jordan adversaries were likely worried that this'd keep his bid alive, as he'd have a couple months to work with them Democrats, the very ones whose votes he'd need to run against him. And you can bet your boots that more than a few Republicans saw this as nothing but surrendering to them Democrats. After all, it would be the Republicans giving up their ability to steer their own ship, even if just for a spell. There ain't much precedent for a bipartisan bunch electing a speaker for a good reason. While this arrangement wouldn't necessarily involve the sort of concessions that are usually handed out to the minority party in them coalition governments, it'd set the House on a course that's as wild as a bucking bronco. All of a sudden, that notion where the House don't rely solely on one party to lead it might have had itself a test run. Folks could compare whatever it turns out to what them stubborn GOP folks did when they were in charge. It might not have actually worked, but it risked shining a spotlight as bright as a lighthouse on the GOP's inability to wield that one bit of lawmaking power they hold in their grasp. Seems like the good old unworkable ways were still preferred over that newfangled notion. Trouble is, them old ways ain't going nowhere, and they might just be getting even more unmanageable. Trying to kick that can down the road was already a sign of weakness, and Jordan missed on that, too.